Guys podcast. Justin Goodhart, after a long litany of technical difficulties, is able to be with Cameron Klein tonight as we have quite a special episode for you guys all tonight. And as I bring Cameron in, it's I called you Camera. Uh, it's not necessarily the most happy of episodes, but it certainly is a joyful and reflective episode that we are planning tonight. And the only thing that I can see fit is you already know the name of this episode as you click on it. Cameron, it didn't take me long to figure out what the name of this episode would be, and it is simply titled "The Lord Saves More." Only the Lord saves more than Bernie Perrant. How you doing tonight, Cameron?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Yeah. All things considered, I wish we were here talking about something different. But Bernie Perrant, legend, lived a very long, happy, successful, pretty incredible life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I don't know, as much as the reason why we're here stinks, I do enjoy when we do these research-based episodes. And because for example, throughout the day today, researching what we were researching into and learning more about Bernie Perrant, his career and the ups and downs, and going to WHA and hating it there and coming back and being in Toronto and hating it there, and just what he meant to Philadelphia as well. It's cool. It's cool to just kind of reflect on that and kind of remember what a person like that once meant to the city.
And what's cool, and for the YouTube crowd, if you see me constantly turning to my left, I have a ton of notes I have two computer screens over here that I have like a ton of notes that I wanted to refer to. We wanted to give this episode some meaning in terms of the introspective career of Bernie Perrant. Not only what he accomplished, but kind of like his road to becoming what he eventually became, which was the greatest goalie of all time or at least regarded as the greatest goalie of all time for many, many, many years in the NHL, being ranked 63rd in the top 100 players of all time. We wanted to kind of go through how he got there, because I think that, hockey players, their story isn't told as well, I think, as what you see. Like, NFL Films does such a great job detailing the lives and the roads that players took to get to where they are. And
Mm-hmm.
Bernie never, some people may not know Bernie's story all that well. And as he has left us he lived a wonderful life as an athlete. And by all accounts, he was a better person off the ice. And so this episode is certainly bringing light to his journey as a player, not just at what he accomplished, but also how he stood against his contemporaries. And when you look at what goalies have become since then, because Bernie obviously he played a very different style than what we see nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And, we'll have the chance to talk a little bit more about that. But Cameron, just kind of getting it started, we talk about Bernie Perrant. And by the way, I just want to also say before we go any further, this episode is presented by FanDuel. And we thank you, FanDuel, for sponsoring this episode and giving us the chance to talk about Bernie Perrant. Bernie's immediate, and I think this is just the coolest thing to know about him. His hero, the guy that he looked up to the most when he started before he started out, was Jacques Plante, from the legendary goalkeeper of the Montreal Canadiens. Jacques Plante's sister grew up in the same neighborhood Bernie Perrant did.
Mm-hmm.
And so Bernie would be out there trying to wait to see Plante come home, or at least maybe not come home. I don't know if Plante lived there by that point, but see if he would come around to the house and all that stuff. So that's his hero, right? Plante needs no introduction in NHL lore, but how cool is it to know that not only did Bernie Perrant get to live right next to the man's sister, his idol sister, he then also got to play with his hero, with the Toronto Maple Leafs when Plante was 43 years old.
Yeah.
And clearly making an impact on Perrant throughout his career. He'll be mentioned a couple times what we're going to be going through. But I just wanted to give that as our intro, because Perrant's career began, and I'm not talking about the NHL. He began with the Niagara Falls Flyers of the OHA.
Fitting name, ironic name.
I know, and because my first thought was the Flyers didn't even exist by that point, so another team out there was just calling themselves the Flyers.
Yeah. I often, when I saw that too, I wondered, I was like, is that where they got the name? Where they were just like, That'll work.
According to the old Flyers tapes, it was a fan that submitted the name, and it's just what ended up winning.
Maybe
With
it's
Ed
Bernie
Snyder,
Bernie
especially.
Perrant fan, maybe. Maybe.
He's a party. He was an OG. He was out there watching the Niagara Falls Flyers back in 1965, where Perrant would shed or give a big foreshadowing to what his career would be. In the couple seasons that he was there, he won back-to-back Dave Pinkney trophies for best goals against average in the league, and he also won the championship and Memorial Trophy Memorial Cup in 1965. He was not drafted to the NHL, but he did sign with our friends, the Boston Bruins, to begin his NHL career in 1967. In 1965-66, he joined the Boston Bruins. So he played in 57 total games for the Boston Bruins. And the numbers, if you look back on it, I mean, nothing great. He lost significantly more than he won. He finished with a 16-32-5 record, goals against average of around 3.7, a save percentage of .870. If you're an NHL executive, Cameron, there was nothing telling you that this guy was going to turn into the greatest goalie of all time. There's certainly nothing, at least in his time with Boston, that was going to say that. So they would be forgiven for leaving Perrant unprotected during the Great Expansion of 1967, where he lands with the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah. And it wasn't like they didn't re-sign him or they traded him or whatever. But yeah, I mean, he was 20 around that time. You didn't really know what he was. Like, granted, at the same time, thinking about it now, it is a little crazy, right? Like if there was an expansion draft now and you had a player who in the CHL, OHL won back-to-back cups and was 20 years old, you're thinking like, hey man, we might have the future of our franchise here. But at the same time, like this was the Boston Bruins, which had Bob Orr, and they had a certain standard that had to be met, and if it wasn't met immediately, it was kind of like, all right, well, we're a premier original six organization, and we're just going to move on to the next.
Exactly. And I think
and they left them, and Philadelphia snagged them.
And I would say also scouting too back then wasn't quite what it is today. So it was harder to tell.
Yeah.
So he ends up with Philadelphia, and it's funny because he and another former Bruins prospect, Doug Favell, also were in Philadelphia. So his first season in Philadelphia, they split time. Favell is kind of, he's fine, but Perrant is kind of still on the show, and the Flyers, win the Western Division. That's right. The Flyers used to play in the Patrick Western Division. If you remember, either A, you've done your homework and you know your Flyers, or B, you're old enough to remember those days when they were in the Western Division.
Yeah.
But he really became the number one in Philadelphia because Favell was injured too much and he was inconsistent. And Perrant was starting to really kind of separate himself from that side of things and establish himself as the guy in Philadelphia. Yeah. And Cameron, early on, those early Fire teams, they were playoff teams. They just weren't good enough, obviously.
Yeah, no team was. Like any non-original six team, like what? Just like if they just didn't have the personnel, they didn't. I don't know what it is. I haven't done enough research on the topic of whether or not it was like, well, maybe their coaching staffs were too young, or there wasn't enough money behind the organizations for them to get the premier players. I'm not exactly sure. I imagine it's all of those things.
I think as well.
So yeah, the Philadelphia was just another one of those teams that was on the outside looking in, that was good, but not a part of the elite talent of the league. As most teams weren't. There was really like a handful of them. It was pretty much Montreal and Boston and Detroit and New York, and even by that point, it was mostly just Boston and Montreal in the 70s.
Yeah, because Toronto had won the cup in ¡67, but then they kind of started to take a downturn.
Yeah.
I wonder why they began to take a downturn. Yeah. And, I think as well, like maybe another aspect was, and we saw it before in different expansion drafts that have happened in subsequent years across other leagues. I just think leagues weren't very nice to expansion teams back then. They didn't give them a chance. Because, again, Perrant being left unprotected, the Flyers taking him is I don't know if I would attest that to the Flyers scouting team as they were becoming a new team. I would attest that more to you fire enough darts at the board, eventually you're going to hit a bullseye. And
yeah, most likely. And again, like that era of hockey, like that original six group was mean. Like they're the reason why the Philadelphia Flyers had the Broad Street Bullies. I forget the guy's name, but there's the story where they were playing against the Montreal Canadiens. And there was a fight that happened, broke on the ice. Someone got hit in the back of the head. The head drove in the ice. It's brutal. And pretty much Ed Snyder was like, we're not ever doing this again. But yeah, like that was the mentality at the time. So yeah, the Flyers were very much on the outside looking in. Yeah, but he was one of the bright spots early on for their career for sure. But yeah.
And so you're going to stop me, guys. Now, everyone listening, stop me if you've heard this before. The Flyers had a bad defense.
Yeah.
The Flyers had a bad defense,
yeah.
right? So between 19 in the next 2 seasons after after his first season in Philadelphia, Perrant put up the following numbers. He had a .923 save percentage and a 2.75 goals against average. Over the next 2 seasons he played in Philadelphia, he faced 4,168 shots in a 2-year period. Because, again, stop me if you've heard this before. Flyers defense was not very good at protecting the blue line.
Yeah.
So as a result, again, Cameron, if your save percentage is that high, but your goals against average is closer to 3 than it is 2, what is that telling you? That is telling you that you are facing a ton of shots, of shots that you are stopping for the most part.
Yeah.
And that's why your save percentage is so amazing.
Right.
So, like, his numbers don't look good. He only won. This is the part that I think drove me out of my mind. In 120 games in that 2-year period that he played in, he won just 30 of those games. 30.
Yeah.
We're talking about the greatest Flyers goalie of all time. And there was a period in 69 and 70 that he just or 68 and 69 really, that he was a loser. He could not win.
Yeah. And like, again, like those numbers that you just brought up, like looking at the Flyers numbers of last year, comparing to a 925 and a 921, 270, 280 goals against average. Yeah. And winning less than half of a regular season. It's insane. But again, it's another one of those like testaments of an early expansion draft team where you have a couple of snippets, you have a couple of diamonds that are the guys that could be the future of the franchise. And then you have everybody else who was just the bottom of the barrel, the guys that you could get that no one else wanted, that were available in the expansion draft for a reason. Which is just so,
It's Flyers.
It's ironic because
it's very Flyers.
Because then what happens to Bernie? What do they do with him?
So what happens next, Cameron, is a story that you and I know well because we lived it like 40 years later.
Right.
Bernie Perrant, with the Flyers needing to find some sort of offense, he is traded away to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, there's a couple things I want to say about this trade. The first thing is that it did give the Flyers back Rick Malish. That is, like, without Rick Malish, the Flyers are not winning a cup. Okay, let's just make that clear.
Yeah.
But, stop me further for a 2-time Vezina winning goalie being traded away, or a soon-to-be 2-time Vezina winning goalie being traded away from the Flyers. Oh my God, I think I've heard this story before. Stop me if you've heard this. He gets traded to Harold Ballard's Toronto Maple Leafs. And if you haven't heard our episode on Harold Ballard, I don't know what you're doing with yourself. Go listen to that episode on our way back in the day. That's a fun one that Cameron and I put together. But he goes to play for Ballard's Maple Leafs. And, he did play well with the Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
The Maple Leafs, though, were an inconsistent franchise, hampered by the sins of cheapness by Harold Ballard, who refused to pay his players. Dave Keon being like the best example of a player that they just refused to pay. And that's why the team, despite the fact that they were 5th in the NHL in scoring and 5th in the NHL in goals allowed during 1971, that they weren't good enough, that they only had 88 points, and they were quickly swept aside by the New York Rangers in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And so, their best defender, the Toronto Maple Leafs best defender, Bob Vaughn, who received Norris, trophy votes during Bernie Perrant's one and only full season as the netminder for the Maple Leafs, he was constantly battling injury. So, as a result, a new league is beginning in around hockey, the WHA, and Ballard is balking at the idea of paying players and says, go ahead, we dare you to leave. Go to the WHA, see if I care. A good deal of the Maple Leafs talent decides to do that. One of those players just so happens to be Bernie Perrant. And I have to laugh because I remember talking about this in the episode we did about Harold Ballard about how
Yeah.
ridiculous it was. And when I was doing the research for this, I like not. I'm in no way, shape, or form a Maple Leafs fan, but I got angry for Maple Leafs fans back then
Yeah.
who probably only had to wait 2 or 3 years to figure out just what they had lost in
Yeah.
Bernie Perron. But
Yeah, it was
he
2
goes
years.
to-
It was
he
literally 2
goes
years.
it took 2 years. Now he goes, so he jumps in WHA. Bernie Perron does 1972, and the Miami Screaming Eagles. You know them, you love them. They make a huge payday splash in Dade County to bring in Bernie Perron. This is going to
Yeah.
be the guy that takes them to the next level. And Perron is like, okay, I'm a WHA player, but there's two main problems. The first problem is that no arena had officially been ready to be built for the Screaming Eagles yet. The second problem is no stadium was ever built for the Miami Screaming Eagles, as a matter of fact. Their owner, whose name, as I have to look at it right now because I keep forgetting it. Oh gosh. Oh, there it is. Yeah, so Herb Martin never gets anything off the ground in Dade County. In Dade County. I'm sorry, I keep saying Dade. It's Dade County, which is where Miami
I was
is.
wondering. I was like, is it pronounced differently than I thought? But I couldn't.
I'm just saying it wrong. So the Screaming Eagles never get the stadium. They were offered to play at some community center, which obviously it's a professional hockey team we're talking about. That's not
Yeah.
going to fly.
Yeah.
So,
Well, unless you're in Arizona, you know what I mean.
oh, that's funny. That's a good barb. I wasn't
And then
even
you can
thinking
play.
about
You
that.
can play at an NCAA or arena. That works too. But yeah, no. I remember getting to this part of it, and it was hilarious to me where it was like the WHA, which was a thing for a while. It's where Gretzky came from, and yada yada whatever. But when I read this, I'm just like, it's never a good sign if your sports organization, your league, one of your teams bankrupts itself before anything even starts.
within the first couple months of it existing, and then the
Yeah.
WHA just says, "No franchise, you're done. We're canceled."
Yeah,
They
we're just-
canceled. The WHA canceled the franchise before they even had a chance to fill out a roster. And what ends up happening is Bernard Brown and James Cooper buy the team off of Herb Martin, and they relocate the team to where? Philadelphia, Pennsylvania,
Look at that.
where Bernie Perron would never play in another city again. But he only played for 1 year with the Philadelphia Blazers. And
Yeah.
in that year with the Blazers in the WHA, Perron was just flat out terrible. His one season, he gives up the most goals in the league with 220. He has a goals against average of 3.61, and he played 63 games that year. So it's not like this was a small sample size. This isn't Ivan Fedotov sample size we're talking about. We're talking a full season where he was the guy, a save percentage of 884, goals against average of 361. He faced 1,700, or he saved 1,716 shots on almost 2,000 total shots. They got swept in the playoffs because this was also at the time in hockey where like everyone made the playoffs back then. Like if you were like 10 wins and 80 losses, you still made the playoffs because they had the preliminary round or the quarterfinal. So they get swept out by the Cleveland Crusaders. And shout out to anyone that knows these team names, by the way. The Philadelphia Blazers, the Miami Screaming Eagles, the Cleveland Crusaders. If you do, you're a true hockey fan.
Right, dude. Yeah.
But Cameron...
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to say? You're going to say that you know this team as well, right?
No, you don't know those teams. For anybody out there saying you know those, you don't. Unless you're like very old, right? Then you're just an old person, and then I respect it. But if you were like our age and you're like, yeah, man, the old Cleveland Crusaders.
It's like a young kid in Philadelphia.
Don't.
I remember the Philadelphia Stars. It's like you remember nothing.
No,
and don't forget that you remember nothing.
You saw the picture in your dad's garage.
Exactly.
And that's cool.
My father does have a Philadelphia Stars bumper sticker, which is pretty cool. But so after a horrible year in the WHA, Cameron, you even alluded to it. He doesn't want to stay in the WHA.
Yeah, apparently that was also like the theory behind why it was such a bad year for him. I never found anything concrete of him saying that directly, but I did see that when he was there in the WHA, he hated his time there. Mostly citing the style of play, which I imagine is just because there was probably a lack of talent compared to the NHL. So I'm sure there was probably a lot more scenarios where pucks were getting through when they shouldn't have been, and I'm sure that didn't help his frustration with things. And the other thing apparently he pointed out was also the size of the crowds. He basically pointed out that it wasn't exciting enough.
Oh, I didn't catch that in my research. So he complained that the crowd sizes were too small.
Yeah, like the energy wasn't there. That was one of the things. It was one of like many reasons of why it was like this. It just kind of seemed like it was like this. This is a watered down version of what I was doing before, and I'd rather do it at that higher level anyway.
And he wants to come back to that higher level.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to do it with his former team, the Toronto Maple Leafs.
No, and I wanted to go back to this because it's like you pointed out too, like at the beginning of this, Jacques Plante. He was playing with him. He was playing with his hero in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
It was so bad in Toronto that he said, "I don't want to play with my hero anymore, and I'll go to a different league." And then came back and he was like, "Still don't want to play with him. I love him, but I can't. If it's in that building, I can't do it." Which I'm not sure. Plante might have been retired at this point. I'm not sure, but
I'll say this though. That's such a good point, and I will also go as far as say that the real life Penguin was running the Toronto Maple Leafs at this point in time.
Yeah. Like for those that don't know, he's like a supervillain. He was like the I forget the guy's name in It's a Wonderful Life, the villain.
Oh my gosh.
Totally blanking. Crocker? It's not Crocker, is it?
No, I don't think so. I gotta look
it's not it.
now.
That's not it. I can't remember. But you know who I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he just reminded me of him in that way. Just the typical, like, you know, business tycoon. I see people as money. Like
that's all Ballard did.
Yeah.
And the thing was, so Ballard was very big on trying to spurn players from coming back to the NHL after they had left for the WHA. So he didn't. To be fair, he didn't really want Bernie Perron either. He figured Perron was a waste. The numbers Perron had put up in the WHA probably gave Ballard more of like a god complex over Perron, thinking, well, you're used goods anyway. So the Flyers trade a first-round pick and Doug Favell, old friend, how you doing, bud, to the Maple Leafs for the rights to Perron. And Cameron, I thought about this, and I don't think it's a stretch to say it's the greatest trade in Flyers history. I think it's leaps and bounds got to be the greatest trade in Flyers history.
Yeah, especially considering, like, I looked at Favell. Actually, I have his stuff pulled up here because I was curious. I was like, all right, well, after that,
pulled up his numbers more. I was more focused on guys like, you know, Esposito and looking at contemporaries.
I looked up him as well. But
Esposito is another guy. He needs no introduction.
Yeah,
he is one of the legendary guys.
He was one of the standards of that time, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to look up. But Favell's first season with Toronto, so that first season after he got traded, he had a 909. He played in 32 games and had a 909 271. Not horrible. He never posted beyond a 9 after that. He played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more years. 878, 786 in 3 games. I'm assuming he got hurt that year. 895, 888, and then his final season was with. His final 3 seasons, I'm sorry, were with. I don't even. Oh my lord!
Who do you play with?
The Colorado Rockies.
Oh my God! He got vanquished to the Colorado Rockies.
Yes, he did.
That's where Ballard sent all the people that he didn't like.
Yes, he did. Where he again put up an 895, 888, and then his final season he played 7 games where he did not win a game. Went 5, had 2 ties. 5 losses, 2 ties, 816 goals against or save percentage, and a 5.38 goals against average. So Dave Favell, I would say Toronto did not do that well in the trade, considering the first season he was back at Philadelphia.
Well, let's talk about that. So it is argued that the 1973-74 and then 74-75 campaigns by Bernie Perron are the 2 best consecutive seasons that any goalie has ever produced ever.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of jumping ahead in my notes a little bit, but I just wanted to give you guys an idea. Between those campaigns, he posted a 918 save percentage, a 2.03 goals against average. I'm sorry. That was 75. I jumped too far ahead. In those 2 seasons combined, he had a 926 save percentage and a 1.96 goals against average and back-to-back Vezina trophies. He did share one with Tony Esposito in 73-74, but he got 30 shutouts from regular season and playoffs combined in those 2 years.
Yeah.
Let me just say this right now. He was a stand-up goalie. He was not a butterfly goalie like Patrick Waugh and Dominik Hasek and all these guys became. That is the greatest stretch, and I do not think I will never see that again in my lifetime.
Yeah.
At least not by a Philadelphia Flyer. Maybe another goalie will come along and do something like that, but I will never see that by a Flyers goalie. The
Yeah.
73-74 Flyers remain today to be perhaps, if I don't think they're the most beloved Philadelphia team of all time, because obviously you probably look at the faux Sixers, you probably think of the 93 Phillies and the 2024 Philadelphia Eagles
Right.
a bit more. Even the 01 Sixers, you could say, and they didn't even win the championship that year. But this team came at a time when Philadelphia sports was kind of a disaster. The Eagles were a dumpster fire organization by this point. The Phillies were coming off of losing season after losing season. They hadn't hit quite their stride yet. The Sixers, God sakes, 1973, I believe that was the year they finished with 9 wins and 73 losses. The worst season until the Charlotte Bobcats, I think, 2011 campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So Philadelphia was starving for a great team, and Bernie Parent was every bit as that.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing that I had completely forgotten about, because when you think of the 73-74 Flyers, close your eyes. What is the first thing that you think of? You think of them beating the Boston Bruins in the Stanley Cup Finals. That's what you think of. You think of 1-0, Game 6. What you may forget is that that whole run nearly got upended into the second round of the playoffs when they were pushed to the brink of elimination by the New York Rangers, and that series went 7.
Yeah.
Bernie Parent posted a .929 save percentage, allowing 16 goals in that series. 16 goals in 7 games factors, that is just over 2 goals per game that he's allowing in that series. 929 save percentage implies, holy crap, this guy is playing his tail off.
Yeah.
And the Flyers win Game 7 4-3 to advance to the Stanley Cup Finals. But it cannot be understated that Bernie Parent in that series saved what would become a dynasty in Philadelphia. Without him, the dynasty never gets off the ground. They never win a cup. They might not even have a cup to this day if not for Bernie Parent standing on his head against the New York Rangers.
You know, it's funny too.
What's that?
That same playoff run, not the same series, not the Ranger series, but the Bruins one, that Game 6, the final one, the one.
Yeah.
He also almost ruined the dynasty because he told a little story about how in the final seconds of Game 6, he was watching the clock go down. And as he's watching the clock go down, he hears a thud as he looks over and sees that none other than Bobby Orr, might have heard of him, shot from a distance and missed the net. And he said if he put that on net, they would have scored. And it cracks me up knowing that the greatest goaltender in Flyers history, arguably the greatest goaltender ever, was just in the final moments of the defining moment of his career is just... Look,
he's taking it in. He's taking in the moment, which is awesome, but also, what are you doing?
Right.
It's funny because what I mentioned in this story is that now the Flyers defeated the Bruins 1-0. And again, also real quick, I have to say it. We're not just talking about any Bruins team. We're talking about the
Bobby Orr.
The Bobby Orr Boston Bruins.
Yeah. One of the greatest players of all time. Teams.
The Bruins organization is already storied enough.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Bobby Orr, that Bruins team could win 10 cups and it wouldn't have been shocking. They were always going, every year, there's like, Bruins are winning the cup. Bruins are going to win the cup. And they were heavily favored over the Flyers in that series.
Yeah.
But he makes 30 saves to beat the Bruins 1-0, including a legendary kick save off of one of the most devastating slap shots from Ken Hodge in the final 3 minutes. It was the final shot on goal that the Bruins took in that game. And then, as Cameron just alluded to, Bobby Orr just missing the net by a few feet. Who knows what would have happened? But you know what, Cameron? We never have to live to find that one out.
No.
And the Flyers, that 74 season is simply, it's the Fred Shero win today and we walk together forever moment.
Yep.
But then 1975, it was almost as if somehow they outdid themselves. They get more wins that year. Parent wins another Vezina, a 2.03 goals against average. Philadelphia, you have flags and stickers and car decals saying Only the Lord saves more than Bernie Parent. That was what Philadelphia had come to expect, the greatness of
Yeah.
Bernie Parent. And the Flyers deliver on such greatness. Parent delivers on such greatness. It's funny, the 75 Flyers aren't talked about as much as the 74 Flyers, but they were just as, if not more dominant. Ironically enough, had a 3-0 series lead over the New York Islanders in the second round of the playoffs, blow that 3-0 lead, get forced to a game 7, and then they win that game 7 before vanquishing the Buffalo Sabres in 6 games, and another shutout in the deciding game for Bernie Parent, 2-0 this time. And the Flyers go back-to-back, and Bernie Parent's legendary status in Philadelphia is not only secure, but now you're talking about, he's better than Jacques Plante. He's better than Tony Esposito. He's better than any goalie you could ever think of. And that was what Parent had established in the city. And it's crazy to say that we've hit the peak of what would be his career.
Yeah.
It's crazy to say that he would never again win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
76 comes around, he has the neck injury. The Flyers still make the finals that year, but they fall to the next dynasty in the NHL, the Montreal Canadiens.
Yep.
And a lot of people in Philadelphia, my father included, say, yeah, but if Bernie's healthy, they win that series going away.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of people cite the Red Army game as an example, because Montreal did not beat the Red Army team and the Flyers did. Another thing too that I don't want to get lost is that in those 2 seasons between 73 and 75, he played 141 games. 73 in 73 games in 73 and 74, and 68 in the next season.
So he's averaging 70 games a season.
Like his overall time was over 4,000 minutes each.
Is that a lot of minutes for a goalie to be playing?
Like, holy shit, dude. Like, it's not like he's just putting up good numbers in spark moments. Like, it's just like, no, he's just consistently playing at an unbelievable level.
His mind.
And I think though, like you're pointing out, that the injury and the fact that his career didn't last a whole lot longer after that, which we'll get into. I mean, he retired at 33. Is one of the reasons why I think he's not talked about as much in terms of like the overall all-time great goaltenders. You know, like he is mentioned, but he's mentioned after Esposito and Hassick and Patrick Waz, and
agreed.
Yeah. Agreed. And I think it's just because it was just unfortunate. He just
And so let's talk about it. So the Flyers, the neck injury happens. But then other things are going on. The NHL is starting to transition more to an offensive-driven league at this point. You've got guys like Guy Lafleur that are just absolutely crushing it across the NHL. The sniper is becoming more and more transcendent. And the problem for those types of goalies like that, they're the stand-up goalies. It's not as helpful. The sticks are getting curved more. There's more emphasis on the actual on-ice talent. So goalies are having to do a lot more and deal with a lot more shots. And this caused a lot of problems with Bernie Parent. You know, the Flyers continued to be a winning team. They would make the playoffs. That was never an issue. But they were not the dynamos that they had been from 1973 to 1976.
Right.
And Parent, his play is getting worse. And at one point, and I brought this up, and I have to turn away from the camera just to bring it up. So his season, his 1976-1977 season, he plays in 61 games. He has a goals against average of .271, which you hear that and you go, okay, that's not like terrible. But his save percentage is .899, and he is incredibly dismayed by what's happening.
Yeah,
and he's thinking about retiring, Cameron. And
I think the lowest his numbers had been since Boston.
I think only his time in the WHA had sported worse numbers.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So he gets visited by an angel. That's not true. His hero, though, Jacques Plante, who had been his teammate, the guy that he grew up idolizing, comes to a practice. And as the story goes, comes to a practice and tells Parent that year, or what he's doing wrong. He tells him what he's doing wrong. He says, you're sitting back on your heels too much, and you're falling too much into the crease, and you're losing focus. That's essentially what Jacques Plante tells Bernie Parent. Now, I don't know how quickly Parent realize this in the moment, but that is your childhood hero and your one-time teammate taking the time to try and help you get back to the player you are. You are
Yeah.
because I mean, by this point, everyone knows who Bernie Perron is. Everyone in the hockey world knows. Oh, you got kids playing hockey in Canada being like, I want to be the next Bernie Perron. So
Right. Right.
this was a star goalie receiving tips from his mentor, and a lot of times when you get to the stardom level, sometimes you can sometimes eschew away advice even from someone you once admired in such a
Oh
great
yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Bernie Perrant did not do that. He takes the advice to heart. And in the 77-78 year, he returns to his championship form. A 2.22 goals against average, a 912 save percentage. The Flyers are back in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and they're making moves. And unfortunately, they lose in the semifinals to those damn Boston Bruins. But the point is that the reason why I bring up this story is because all too often in life, we get so stuck, whether it be at our jobs, we're struggling at work, and we eschew away help because there's almost like this bravado that you can't ask for help. And Perrant was a two-time Stanley Cup champion, a two-time Vezina, was racking up all of the All-Star accolades. He had once been second in Hart Trophy voting, but he was not too good enough to listen to a man who had played years before him and a man that he had admired. And I think that is a great showing of modesty, being humble, and ultimately it was the reason why he got his career back on track.
Yeah. Yeah. And a big shout out to Jacques Plante, where that was how he was their entire career together when he first went to Toronto. Bernie Perrant, I mean, when he first went to Toronto, that Jacques Plante was very much a mentor immediately. Like, he knew his role immediately. He knew that he was on the out. He was in the twilight years of his career. He was in a good. He had a very good year in '71. Plante did himself, like a bounce back year for the age that he was. But Bernie Perrant credits that heavily with how it was like he could have shooed him away, the same way Perrant could have with his advice later on.
Yes.
But Plante didn't. Plante was like, we're on the same team, and if I help you, you're helping me. So there's no point in not mentoring him. And like that's big. Like, you talk about that a lot, and you say like, it kind of gets taken for granted, where you think they're teammates. Naturally, that's what's going to happen. Like, naturally, the older guy should take in the younger guy and try to show them the ropes. But in that business, a lot of times it's the younger guy's the one who's gunning for your job. So for somebody to do that, it just shows a lot of humility, and shows somebody who's a good leader. As somebody who's worked in construction fields and stuff like that, like, I've had that happen to me, where older people would like just give advice, give tools, give whatever, and you never forget those people. You never forget the people that were there for you, that helped you for no reason other than just to do it. And just shout out to Jacques Plante for being that guy throughout all of Bernie Perrant's career. Everybody needs a person like that. Even a guy like Bernie Perrant, who's compared to God. They all need a Jacques Plante in their life.
Leave it to Philadelphia to have a great player and be like, it's a deity. We don't. This doesn't come around our parts of town very often.
Well, yeah, and they never did again. But no, like, even a guy like Bernie Perrant, you need help sometimes, and Jacques Plante was there, and that's cool.
Perrant's status at that point had been sealed. He's a legend. He's a legend.
Yeah.
However, he did not play as long as he thought he was going to. In 1979, on February 17th, call it, I don't know what day of the week that was, but whatever day of the week that was, Black Day of that week.
Right.
Black Friday, Black Thursday, Black Monday, I don't care what.
Yeah.
Perrant suffered a career-ending eye injury from an errant stick of a New York Ranger, and if you didn't need another reason to hate the New York Rangers, well, here you go.
Yeah.
He did receive eye surgery, but he was told that his playing days were done. He had permanent eye damage. He would never play again. He was just 34 years old at the time of retiring. Or correction, he was 33. Now, his injury, along with Jerry Desjardins' career-ending injury, did lead to the fiberglass mask that everyone had become so accustomed to seeing way back in the day. Those white masks that you would see.
Right.
That had kind of gone away, and what came instead was the cage mask and helmet that you now see every goalie use. As a matter of fact, I don't think you would ever see even Dominic Hasek's cage helmet mask. That has gone away. You would never see a goalie wear that anymore. Nowadays, it's going to always be the traditional modern helmet.
Mm-hmm.
And player injuries for Desjardins and also for Perrant are why we're at that point, which we might have headed to that point no matter what anyway. But that certainly hastened it. The other problem, Cameron,
exactly.
Though, the other problem, though, Cameron, is that, that style of goalie was becoming a little bit outdated. Perrant wouldn't. I don't know how long into the '80s Perrant would have been great, or how long he would have lasted, but it was obvious that the Patrick Waugh butterfly style was quickly becoming the preferred way of goaltending.
Yeah,
and so
it already was. It already was before that, which kind of made his bounce back in '78 a lot more impressive. That it was like this guy who's kind of playing this old school style is like still keeping up with with the transitioning league, which was pretty impressive at the time, and kind of like just showed a testament of, again, just how good of a goddamn goaltender Bernie Perrant was. But yeah, no, at the same time though, it's just the game was slowly in the process of passing him by.
Now, what's interesting is in this episode, it's very abrupt for us to begin talking about how his career just ended. But that is kind of how it was, though. In reality, it was an abrupt end to a great career. Yeah. And the Flyers, outside of Ron Hextall, the Flyers have had one goalie who could have potentially been the next Bernie Perrant. That was Pelle Lindbergh.
Yep.
And Pelle, unfortunately, died way too soon into his career. To this day, the Philadelphia Flyers have never had anything close to what they would once had in Bernie Perrant. Even if you want to say, oh, well, they did have Sergei Bobrovsky. Yeah, but Bobrovsky wasn't Bobrovsky yet by the time the Flyers traded him. We saw the potential that he had, everyone except the Flyers. And so the Flyers never saw that. Yeah. Give me Carter Hart's best days. Like, what was Carter Hart's best stretch as a Flyer? Arguably, you could say his playoff series against the Montreal Canadiens in 2019-2020. That would be like the best stretch of Carter Hart play. Right. That would pale in comparison to what Bernie Perrant had done on the ice for the Flyers.
Yeah. Like, to put it in perspective, like 30 shutouts in those two seasons, and if you count the regular season and the playoffs, 74-75, he has the most shutouts in a single season with 16. 12 in the regular season, 12 in the regular season, and 4 in the postseason. And the most, that's the most post expansion, I should say. That's counting everything after 66, 67. Because come on, I'm not counting stats from 1940 or 20 or whatever it is. Post expansion, the list I believe goes Esposito with 15 in the regular season, Hasek 97-98, I believe, with 14.
Yeah.
And then number 3 is Bernie Perrant, 73-74, and number 4 is Bernie Perrant, 74-75 with 12. and again, 73-74, he had 14 counting the playoffs, and 74-75, he had 16 counting what he did in the playoffs, which is the most ever.
Bernie Perrant had 56 total shutouts as a Philadelphia Flyer, 50 in the regular season, 6 in the postseason. His postseason numbers stand up the test of time: a 2.39 goals against average, a 9.16 save percentage, 35 wins, 2 Conn Smythes, 2 Vezinas, 2 Stanley Cups. He did everything. The only thing he didn't, you know what the only thing he didn't do? He wasn't actually God. He wasn't actually God.
Yeah, like I was going to say, he also played 73 games in the one season and 68 in the other. Like, when you say he was doing everything, it's like, again, this wasn't like, well, what he did with his 40 games that he played, like how it's done now. It's like, no, he did all of it. And he never slowed down, which is insanity. We talk about how rough of a run the NHL playoffs are because you have to dig deep and you've been playing all season long. And again, the game's a lot faster now than it was then. But the game was damn physical back then, too. And somehow, not only did he not slow down, he just kept a consistent pace and sped up. It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable what he was able to do. And in terms of how he is looked at from Philadelphia's standpoint, you think of the greatest athletes ever in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So I think of I think of Allen Iverson. I think of Dr. J. I think of Bobby Clark. I think of Mike Schmidt, Steve Carlton, Bernie Perrant, obviously. Philadelphia has not had they've had great legendary players come through their city, but the thing that stuck out about Bernie Perrant was that the man did it so well at a position that, quite frankly, isn't appreciated enough in sports in total because the NHL isn't appreciated enough. Goalie, goalie is the hardest position to play, in my opinion, in professional sports. I have said this before. I think it is harder than the quarterback position in the NFL. And the only reason I say that is because when a quarterback throws for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns, he gets the praise that he deserves. Goalies, when they go 28 for 29 and win 2-1, they don't get the recognition.
Good, you did your job.
Yeah. How many times do we?
Meanwhile, your job is to be the backbone of the entire team.
Yeah. How many times, Cameron, do we talk about goalies on this show? And every time we talk about them, we're talking about them in a negative light. We're very infrequently very positive about our goalies, and to be fair, they haven't given us a lot to be positive about.
Yeah.
But even in that, to my own admission, there are times where a goalie has a great game for the Flyers, and I don't even take the moment to recognize it because, in my opinion, you're just doing what your job is. Whereas if I see Jalen Hurts make a 19-point comeback against the Rams, I'm singing his praises like no one else.
Yeah.
And so I think that the goalie position is the hardest position to play in sports. Bernie Perrant did that at the highest level. He's the greatest goalie of all time. I do not want to hear about Martin Brodeur. I do not want to hear about a guy that faced 2 shots in an all game. I do not want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about Marty Brodeur. I don't care. Give me whatever number you want to give me. I do not care. Now, Dominic Hasek, on the other hand, I would hear that argument. Hasek was a great goalie.
Too. Yeah, Dominic, his numbers are insane. Because, again, looking up just the contemporaries of Bernie Perrant, and
I was going to say, this is where hit me with it.
Well, no, I don't have anything pulled up immediately, but it's just
thankfully
the fact that he had, 14 shutouts in 97, 98, Dominic Hasek. And it's he was doing it in the era where the offense was really starting to pick up. Really starting to get good. You know what I mean? And, just for him to do it in a more modern era is unbelievable.
When you think about other great goalies from that time period, Ken Dryden of the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah.
Incredible goalie.
Esposito, again, we mentioned as well.
You had Tony Esposito of the Chicago Blackhawks.
Mm-hmm.
Again, incredible numbers. Amazing. Tony Esposito's numbers, 16 years, all of them, except for one with the Chicago Blackhawks, 906 save percentage for a 293 goals against average. Those numbers by today's standards would not be looked at very favorably, but you have to remember what it was that. And then when you talk about when you talk about goals saved above average, Tony Esposito, all-time record, 453.6.
Yeah. I remember seeing the number 2, and I couldn't. I didn't fathom it. I thought it was a typo. Because I was looking at everyone else's numbers as well in terms of the goals saved above average.
Perrant is 261.
Yeah.
It's not even close. But Bernie Perrant's numbers throughout his career were better. 915 save percentage, a 255 goals against average. Here's how he stacked up against his.
But he also had a shorter career too. He
did have a shorter career.
Yeah.
Esposito. The thing about Esposito, and again, I have to be very careful with how I say this because everyone that I'm about to mention to you wasn't incredible. Ken Dryden won 6 Stanley Cups.
Mm-hmm.
He's not talked about as one of the greatest of all time. He won 6 Stanley Cups, and his numbers, unbelievably enough,
dude.
Problem is, he only played 8 seasons. He played 8 seasons. And in those 8 seasons, he had a 224 goals
6
against
rings
average.
in 8 years? Holy shit, man.
Yeah, he's
nice.
he's the Tom Brady of the NHL, clearly.
That's efficient. You got to say that's efficient, at the very least.
It's hard to go against that. And then you look at Tony Esposito.
Yeah.
Tony Esposito never won a Stanley Cup. He did win 3 Vezinas.
Yeah.
He was a 5-time All-Star, but he never won the Stanley Cup. And so when you look at how Bernie Perrant stands against the greats of his time, he clearly stands up not just well, but almost standing above them. Dryden's got 6 cups. I'm not going to tell him. I'm not going to tell anyone that he's standing above Ken Dryden.
Yeah.
But what I will say is that he stands with Ken Dryden. And then when you look at today's goalies, let's take a look. Who are the greatest goalies of our generation, Cameron? Carey Price.
Yep.
Unbelievable goalie
Yep.
for a decade plus, never won a cup.
Yeah.
Henrik Lundqvist was considered the gold standard for years of goaltending. Never won a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Never won a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Patrick Waugh won 2 Stanley Cups. No, I'm sorry. He won 3. But he had 2 Stanley Cup plugs that were. Yeah, he won one with the he won one with the Canadians, and then.
Did you just see the balloons that popped up on your thing?
No, I didn't.
They're just balloons. Yeah, you're celebrating something.
I don't. You know, what I'm celebrating. I'm celebrating the life of Bernie Perron. Right now. That's
there you
what
go.
I'm doing.
There you go.
But
yeah.
When Patrick Waugh didn't have his 2 Stanley Cups plugging his ears so we couldn't hear Jeremy Roenick, he was winning cups at a ridiculous level, and also Patrick Waugh's style is considered to be the elite style. It is like
it changed things, and yeah. It's still the style. I mean, hybrid is still the butterfly hybrid is still the way to play now. You know.
But we mentioned Dominic Hasek. Guess what he never did?
He just happened to be in Buffalo.
A little too long.
You know, just
in Buffalo a little too long.
That sucks,
the Dominator.
man.
How can you be called the Dominator?
Yeah.
And not win a cup?
Yeah.
But in all sincerity, Cameron, and if there's anything I'm forgetting, feel free to chime in, because what I wanted to bring this all back to is the fact that Philadelphia lost a hero and they lost a legend. Anytime I think of the white goalie mask, I will always think of Bernie Perron.
Yeah.
I always think of the images of him on foggy ice in a Stanley Cup final against the Buffalo Sabres. I think of those final seconds against Game 6. And again, I'm 29. I didn't watch these, but there were the tapes. And those are what the Flyers memories are built on. It's what's so frustrating as a Flyers fan is that we don't want to have these types of memories only available to us in standard definition 4:3 on a VHS. But that's how I had to experience it watching a Flyers Cup win.
Yeah.
But for any older Flyers fan, what they remember, what they saw with their eyes, wasn't just a Hall of Fame goalie. What they saw was rare in this city, as rare as it gets.
Yeah. When you I was thinking about this today. When you in the notes brought up the legend thing, and I thought when you thought about the standard of Philadelphia sports, now you think of the Philadelphia Eagles because of recent memory, and also football is the standard. That's just the number 1 sport in the country. Philadelphia is an Eagles town, but when you think about how the standard started in Philadelphia, in the latter half and more of the more modern era sports in the mid 60s on with the expansion drafts, the NFL becoming a thing, the standard was set by the Philadelphia Flyers and the 76ers.
Mm-hmm.
And more earlier on, it was the Philadelphia Flyers.
Mm-hmm.
They were the standard. They were what, to me, when I started really thinking about where does the mentality, which just comes also from the blue collar mentality of Philadelphia, but where is the mentality of I demand perfection and I will not be satisfied beyond it. And I think it's because 7 years into their existence, the Philadelphia Flyers gave you that. And not only did they give you that, Bernie Perron gave you the most dominating run in one of the most important, difficult positions to play in all of sports. And it set the standard moving forward from that point on. Then in Philadelphia, if you're going to play at the best all the time, because we saw that 2 years in a row from one guy, and that was Bernie Perron. He's a Mount Rushmore Philadelphia Flyer. He's a Mount Rushmore Philadelphia sport legend. To me, when you think of the Philadelphia Flyers, you think of 2 people that pop up in your head, and it's Bernie Perron and Bobby Clark.
Yep.
They're both equally important to the Flyers' legacy. But I would argue, in the same way you did, Bobby Clark was the captain, which he had that going for him, but Bernie Perron was the goaltender. And he shut out some of the greatest hockey teams in history. He's the backbone. And that's how he should always be remembered. The backbone of the beginning of the spirit of Philadelphia sports. And I don't say that lightly. I'm not trying to be dramatic. Like when I was thinking about it today, I just thought, I mean, that's kind of really, really where it began, right? In the modern era. You can talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, championships, sure, but not a lot of people know about those, like but a lot of most sport people, they at least know Bernie Perron.
It's funny when you talk about the modern era. I almost sometimes wonder when do we say the modern era began? Because you would not say the 40s, you would not say the 50s. And in the 40s, the Eagles were the best team in the NFL in the late 40s. And then the Phillies had the 1950 Whiz Kids, where they went to the World Series. Will Chamberlain was a Sixer, and the Sixers won the championship in 1968, arguably the greatest NBA team ever, the 68 Sixers, with 68 wins, 13 losses. They just won one. They never went back.
Yeah, it wasn't until, again, later in the 70s when Dr. J and, the resurgent
Here's a fun one.
Sixers came in.
Along with many players from the 73 and then the 74 to 74, 75 Flyers. Before the Eagles Super Bowl this past February, only the members of the Philadelphia Flyers from that era could say that they were part of two championship teams in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Lane Johnson, Jake Elliott, Rick Lovato,
Brandon Graham.
And thank you. I can't believe I forgot Graham. And Brandon Graham are the only four Philadelphia players outside of that Flyers team, those Flyers teams, that can ever say they were part of two championships in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
That says more than a lot of things I could say to you tonight.
Yeah. And I'll say this too. I'll end on this. When you think about how, only the Lord saves more. And I'm not sure if I'm a person that believes in divine intervention or anything like that, but he's in Boston. He gets drafted by an expansion team to Philadelphia. He goes from there to the WHA to sign a team in Miami, but that team in Miami doesn't become anything and gets sent where? To Philadelphia. His WAHA team was the Flyers, before the Flyers even existed. He then comes back. He won't play for Toronto, so where does Toronto send him? Philadelphia. And that first Stanley Cup in 1974, as he's looking up at the clock, not paying attention, Bobby Orr, of all people, Bobby Orr, one of the greatest players of all time, misses the net. I don't know if I believe in divine intervention. But maybe God wanted someone to save more than him for 2 years. Maybe. Just maybe. I don't know.
I think if there was anyone that had ever been meant to be a Philadelphian, it was Bernie Perron. A lot had to go right for him. After some things went wrong for him, but a lot had to go right for him. And as we wrap this up, I just want to say that the Flyers have not won a cup since that 75 season.
Oh, thank you for reminding us.
Hold on. But it is ever important that we remember all of those players, because one by one, they are all going to go. And you don't have to brag about a championship from 50 years ago. Please don't. But remember the efforts that the heroes of yesteryear gave for your city, for your team. When you wear your hockey sweater, look down at the logo, the crest, and remember who gave their hearts, their bodies, and a lot of other things up to make your dreams of seeing your team win a championship come true. Bernie Perron, if he is not the greatest Philadelphia Flyer of all time, he is the second greatest Philadelphia Flyer of all time. I don't think that that's a controversial statement. You can all beat your Eric Lindros drums.
There's no way.
No, no one ever actually say that. But
Yeah.
the point being, you could give me Bobby Clark, I won't argue with you. But then your
Yeah.
number two better be the man who saved more than anyone else, other than God himself. And so, Cameron, as we draw to a close, when we got to talk about some preseason hockey's going on with the Flyers right now.
Oh man, don't do it. Don't. I'm talking to the Flyers. Don't do it. Don't do this to me. I saw that Ziegler. We saw that Ziegler's goal. Don't do it to me. Don't do it to me unless you're gonna do it to me. If you're gonna do it to me, do it to me. But don't do it to me if you're not gonna do it to me. Okay? But yeah, they look.
Can that just be the soundbite that we just go with? Don't do it to me unless you're going to do it to me. I want that as a sound. We got to buy a soundboard for the show because I need that on a soundboard.
Unless you're gonna do it, don't do it.
Yeah, they've looked aight. They looked
Fun.
aight. I'll say that about them.
They looked fun.
Yeah, Zegras and Mitchkov. That could be fun. We'll see if it's fun, but that could be fun.
Well, it can be. I'm not trying to minimize it because Zegras. I'm been talking about it all. Oh, down I go.
I know. Camera finally went. How about that?
That's kind of funny that it lasted that long. But yeah, no, I'm a big Zegras fan as it is. But so I'm very excited. But at the same time, it's like Mitchkov is probably going to be fun with just about anybody, though, right? For the most part, unless it's like someone who's really bad. But yeah, it's I don't know, it's right around the corner, man.
And
it's exciting.
Be sure to check out all of the odds on the over-unders for Flyers wins this season on FanDuel. How many goals is Matvei Mitchkov, going to score this year? You know what? I got to take a look at the over and under odds on that one. But the Fly Guys podcast is presented by FanDuel, and we thank you so much for tuning into this episode. This is the part where I'm supposed to say be happy, be healthy, and let's go Flyers, but I'll say this instead. Go and watch Bernie Parent video. Go to YouTube at some point and just go watch Game 6 of the 1974 Stanley Cup Finals. Guess what? Hockey was kind of boring back then, but you will get a thrill out of watching the most consequential game in Philadelphia Flyers history. And go look at the stats later. Go look at where he ranks. Go look at his contemporaries. And just remember, he faced 4,000 shots in a 2-season period and maintained a save percentage above 900 and a goals against average of below 3. I'm pretty sure Marty Brodeur never saw 4,000 shots in his entire career. It's a testament to the Devils' defense, but also, I don't think Marty Brodeur is the greatest of all time.
Hey.
But no, in all sincerity, thank you so much for listening. His name is Cameron Klein, and my name is Justin Goodhart. Be happy. Let's go Flyers. And thank you, Mr. Parent, for giving us everything you gave in Philadelphia. And may your family have peace, love, and health during this difficult time.